Hi Logan, Alan Cockrell with ABC, hitting coordinator with the Arizona Diamondbacks. I'll do your video today. Take a look at some things that I see and some of the things that we talk about with our guys. I look at your setup position, and you know, I like what I see. I see a good balanced setup position. I see a nice load. See good balance throughout the swing. And the one thing that really sticks out to me really happens in the load process. Just maybe the length of your stride might be the issue, or it's possibly maybe just the timing of it. Go ahead and set it down, but we gain a lot of ground with that stride foot. And then as soon as we set it down, we're getting into our swing. And what happens is that front side starts to open up a little bit quickly, and that makes our swing very, very one-dimensional to the pull side. So what I'd like to do is just talk about getting yourself into a position, you know, right about here would really be a pretty good place for you to go ahead and just set that foot down right about there. That puts you into a good athletic position. You'd have a nice base, a nice foundation into the ground, and I think it's would keep you much more squared up with your hips and shoulders and everything. But I think we're going to continue to gain just a little bit more ground, not much, but a little bit more ground. And then when we get to this position, this is where all hitters start to look alike. Okay. The first thing that we look for with guys is to make sure that there's equal bend in both knees. That's pretty good. You know, we see that both knees are inside the feet, and again, that's just a balanced athletic position. That's where we want to be. I see a little bit of tilt with your hips, meaning your front hip is starting to leak open just a little bit. Shoulders are pretty good. Maybe a little bit of tilt there. I kind of see the head just back on the back leg just a little bit more than I'd like to see it. I'd like to see that head in a good attacking position. It's going to be sitting right over the belt buckle. Height of the hands for me is a little bit borderline, just a little bit below shoulder height, and then we kind of have this bat laying flat, which scares me a little bit, thinking that we're going to sweep the bat through as opposed to keeping the angle, the height of the hands more up here, and then keeping the angle of the bat more in this position to be able to drop the elbow underneath when we get into the swing. But one of the main things that I look for, and we're always looking for a cause of why that front hip might be leaking out just a little bit. We're looking at the stride foot. You're at 40 degrees, so that's good. That tells me that's not the issue. I honestly think that it's just maybe the width of your stance. I think you're about 3 inches wider than we should be, and by getting a little spread out too wide, you know, we'll put that foot there at that 40-degree mark where you have it. If we could keep it more in this position here, that's going to allow for these hips to be a little bit more squared up, and that's going to put us in a better position to attack both sides of the plate. Okay. As we start to go forward here, what we're going to see is when the swing starts to go forward, we see this elbow, it drops underneath the hands very quickly, okay? And we want it to drop underneath, all right? But we want to get leg driving that knee to the inside part of that front leg before this elbow drops down into that slot, okay? And we'll see that the first thing that happens is that elbow gets down underneath before we get really too much leg drive. And at this particular point right here, okay, we want to see elbow, back hip, and we also want to see the hands right here added up. And this is the connection. This is the point where that lower half driving into the front leg, it gets passed off, all that energy gets passed off to the hands. Now I see your hands back here just a little bit, which tells me that they're dragging. So we want that knee to start. The knee will start. It'll drive forward. then the elbow will drop. And when the elbow starts to drop underneath the hands, we get to this point right here, this connection. Now everything starts to work forward, meaning the hands will start to work in front of the body, and that would put us in a position to handle a pitch in, a pitch middle, and a pitch away. And the only thing that would change, obviously, would be our contact point. We're just starting to, we're a little strung out with our lower half, and our hands are trying to make up for it by getting the elbow going, and now the hands are dragging just a little bit. So we'll just run it through a couple times, and what we'll see is when we get to contact, and that elbow gets ahead of the hands, that elbow gets way ahead of the power source, right about there, what we see is when we come back, we get to contact, okay, and then we finish very quickly and see the finish of the barrel and everything finishing around our hands, or our hands finishing around our body very, very quickly. So that's a position that makes it very difficult to handle pitches out here on the outer half of the plate. Makes it very difficult to handle off-speed pitches, and we can just see that front hip starting to leak. As soon as the foot lands, that front hip is starting to leak open a little bit. So is it a timing issue? Is it getting that stride foot just a little bit too wide, a little bit too much of a stride forward that kind of causes that hip to want to leak out a little bit quickly? But we can see the front hip starts to leak, and when it does, the elbow comes, and then the hands will come after that, and it just brings the barrel around the ball, around the body as we go forward, and everything starts to work around and in and out of the zone really quickly. Right there we can see that. So, probably the biggest suggestion that I could really give you is to do a lot of tee work, and let's pay attention to the width of this stride. We're going to get it down somewhere out here. Let's just shorten it up 3 inches. Let's shorten that stride up 3 inches. Okay, and now let's set that tee out there, outer half, outer third, even with the stride foot, maybe slightly inside the stride foot. So when that stride foot lands, what we're going to see is that we're going to be here. Now this hip right here is not going to be starting to open up too quickly. It's not going to start, we're not going to see this hip line with this hip leading. What we're going to see is a straight hip line. Now we can drive forward into that front leg, and when we do, the elbow will drop underneath, and when we get to this position right here, we're not going to see that the hands are dragging behind. See how the hands are working back here, and our power source, basically our power source, is all right here. The hands are just going to work behind that, so they're going to the elbow is going to continue to go forward, and then the hand is going to catapult around and go outside and around the ball. So we're just going to work on shortening the stride, getting ourselves in a position to where hips are square. Now when the elbow drops, the elbow will get underneath the hands, and those hands will be right there. So it's hand, elbow, back, hip, and now we can get to extension, or get to contact on this pitch away. We can get here, and then we can get nice, full, long extension through this ball, driving it through the right side of the cage in a tee, driving it through the second baseman if we're on a field, and just getting the contact point along with the extension. We want this top hand to stay palm up as long as we can, and right there we can see that this top hand is already starting to roll, and the quicker it rolls over, then that's what takes the barrel out of the bat. So at contact, I want to be palm up. I want to be in a position where I'm palm up, and this right hand is just rolling over way too quickly. So that connection is going to allow for you to stay palm up at contact and continue to stay palm up through extension, and then your finish will be long and full, but you'll have done everything you can do to maximize your bat speed to the point of contact, and then also extending that top hand, continuing to keep that top hand palm up so that we're getting good extension and finishing off the swing, staying through the ball. Okay, Logan, this is most all of the really good hitters in the big leagues, they work off a tee. Prior to batting practice, in the cage when they're doing their maintenance work, they work off a tee, and they put that tee in a particular location because they can work exactly on the location that they want to work on the most. And I'd like to see you get yourself and your body into a position that's going to allow you to stay on this ball, hit through this ball that's away. And what we have going on now with the width of your stance, the length of your stride, and the front hip leaking, it's going to be tough to stay on balls away. It's going to be really tough to stay on anything off speed, whether it's a breaking ball or a changeup. We can just see everything working around that front side, and we want to work into that front side, stay palm up through that ball with good maximum bat speed and extension. Okay? But I want to thank